Family supports family. My sister said, living rent-free in my house. Don't be selfish, her husband added. I nodded quietly. This morning, my phone blew up with 13 missed calls. My phone's been buzzing nonstop since 6 a.m. 13 missed calls. 27 text messages. I'm standing in my kitchen, watching my coffee drip slowly into the pot, and wondering how 8 months of trying to help family led to this moment. It started last summer when my sister Callie and her husband Mark showed up at my door on a Sunday afternoon. I remember because I was cleaning out my garage, sweating through my favorite Ravens t-shirt, when their beat-up Honda pulled into my driveway. Just for a few weeks, Coop, Callie said, that familiar charming smile on her face. The landlord's selling the building, and we need time to find a new place. Mark stood behind her, nodding eagerly, his eyes wide with that look that always made me feel like the bad guy if I said no. I should have known better. I really should have. But she's my little sister, and I've got a 4-bedroom house all to myself since breaking up with Sarah last year. What kind of person turns away family? The first month wasn't terrible. They took the guest room downstairs, kept their stuff organized, and Callie talked about all these promising job leads. Mark even cooked dinner a few times, though he had this habit of leaving the kitchen looking like a war zone. Small price to pay for helping family, right? Week 6 is when things started getting weird. I came home one day to find my home office rearranged. Mark had been reading about energy flow. Callie explained, not looking up from her phone. The energy's better this way. My dual monitors were unplugged, my desk pushed against the wrong wall, and my filing cabinet was in the hallway. I spent 2 hours setting everything back up while they ordered takeout. The job leads never materialized. The market's tough right now, became Callie's mantra. Mark's spiritual counseling business wasn't bringing in much, but he kept buying these expensive essential oils and crystals that started appearing all over my house. He'd always been into alternative healing, but lately, it felt more like a scheme than a calling. The temporary storage of their stuff in my garage grew until my car had to stay in the driveway. My friend Jonah noticed the change in me first. You look tired, man, he said over beers one night. I explained the situation and he just shook his head. They're taking advantage of you, Cooper. You know that, right? I brushed it off, but things kept piling up. The utilities bill doubled. My groceries disappeared faster than ever, with no offers to chip in. Their dog, which they never mentioned, having until it showed up one day, started chewing my furniture. Every time I tried to bring up these issues, Mark would tear up and Callie would get this wounded look. We're family, she'd say. Like it explained everything. Last week, I finally hit my limit. I came home to find strangers in my living room, some spiritual healing circle Mark had organized. Crystals everywhere, weird chants, and the overwhelming smell of sage. My favorite reading chair had been pushed into the garage to make space for the energy to flow. I waited until their friends left and asked for a family meeting. Told them we needed to discuss their plans, set some boundaries. That's when it happened. Family comes first, Callie said, sprawled on my couch. The same couch she hadn't moved from all day. Don't be selfish, Mark added from where he sat cross-legged on my coffee table, surrounded by his crystals. His spiritual advisor persona was in full force, all serene smiles and knowing looks. I stayed quiet, nodding, watching them exchange that look they always share when they think they've won an argument. The same look they gave each other when they convinced our mom that their last failed business venture wasn't their fault, when they explained why they couldn't attend our dad's funeral because they were manifesting abundance at a retreat in Sedona. That night, I made some calls, talked to a lawyer friend, checked my state's tenant laws, documented everything. This morning, I left a formal notice on their door before heading to work. 30 days to find a new place. Everything legal, everything by the book. The calls started coming in around 6 a.m. First Callie, then Mark, then our mom. I haven't answered any of them. Instead, I'm standing here, watching my coffee drip, feeling this strange mix of guilt and relief. My phone buzzes again. Mark's posting on social media about toxic family members and negative energy. Callie's probably already called mom, spinning this her way. But for the first time in 8 months, my house feels like it might be mine again soon. The coffee's done brewing. I pour a cup, walk to my rearranged office, and start my workday. My phone keeps buzzing, but I'm done nodding quietly. I've got 30 days to reclaim my space, and somehow, I don't think their abundance manifestation is going to find them a free place to stay this time. Update 1. Things have escalated since my last post about my sister and her husband living with me. I thought serving them notice would be the hard part. Turns out, that was just the beginning. The morning after I left the notice, I came downstairs to find Mark sitting in the dark, surrounded by black crystals arranged in a circle. He didn't look up when I entered, just kept humming something under his breath. The hair on my arm stood up. Not because I believe in that stuff, but because this was different from his usual positive vibes only attitude. Your aura is very dark today, Cooper, he said, still not looking at me. It's concerning. I ignored him and went to make coffee, only to find my coffee maker unplugged with a note taped to it. Negative energy needs to be cleansed before use. That's when I noticed all my kitchen appliances were unplugged. Every single one. Callie came downstairs while I was plugging everything back in. She acted like nothing was wrong, asking if I wanted to watch the game that night. When I mentioned the notice, she laughed. Come on, bro. You know Mom would never let you kick us out. We're family. That's when my phone buzzed. A notification from my bank. The utility bill payment had bounced. The bill they'd promised to handle 3 months ago. I pulled up my online banking and felt my stomach drop. They hadn't paid a single utility bill since moving in. Not one. I confronted Callie about it. She shrugged, scrolling through her phone. Universe provides, bro. Money is just energy. It'll work out. The universe isn't paying my water bill, I said. Maybe if you attended one of Mark's abundance workshops. She didn't finish the sentence because I walked out. I needed air. My neighbor, Layla, was outside, walking her dog. She's lived next door for years, always friendly but keeps to herself. Everything okay? She asked. I saw some strange lights from your windows at 3 a.m. Looked like candles. That was news to me. I'd been asleep or thought I was. She hesitated, then added, and I think someone's been going through your mail. I've seen Mark at your mailbox when you're at work. I thanked her and went back inside. Straight to my home office. The filing cabinet I'd fought to keep in place was slightly ajar. Inside, my normally organized files were a mess. Credit card statements were missing. A cold feeling settled in my stomach. Called my friend Jonah during lunch. He wasn't surprised. Remember their eco-friendly smoothie business that your mom invested in? Or the spiritual retreat center they were planning in Costa Rica? I did remember. Mom lost $10,000 on the smoothie shop that never opened. The retreat center was just a badly photoshopped website that disappeared after collecting early bird deposits. That afternoon, my mom called. Cooper, honey, Mark's really upset. He says you're disrupting his spiritual business. He had to cancel 3 clients because your negative energy is affecting the house's healing properties. What clients, Mom? He's charging people to come to my house. Well, he needs to make a living. And Callie's cryptocurrency investment is about to pay off big time. She just needs a little more startup capital. I hung up, opened my laptop, checked my credit report. 3 credit card applications in the past month, all declined, thankfully. Address listed? My house. The final straw came that evening. I overheard them in the guest room, door slightly open. His house would make a perfect healing center. Mark was saying, once we get established, we can easily clear $5,000 a week. We just need to get him to sign some paperwork. Mom's working on him, Callie replied. Says he's always been the responsible one. Easy to guilt trip. The abundance ritual tonight should help soften him up. I've got those papers from that guy online, power of attorney stuff. If we time it right. I'd heard enough. Went straight to my room, made some calls. First to a locksmith, then to my bank. Finally, to a lawyer who specializes in real estate and fraud. This morning, I came downstairs to find my living room transformed into what looked like a scene from a low-budget horror movie. Black candles everywhere. Weird symbols drawn on my hardwood floor. In what better not be permanent marker? A stack of official-looking papers on the coffee table, post-it note on top. Sign for family prosperity. I took pictures of everything. Sent them to my lawyer. Then I found the box of healing crystals Mark keeps going on about. Funny how they look exactly like the glass beads you can buy in bulk online. Even funnier how the ancient spiritual symbols drawn on my floor match perfectly with a $2.99 Dark Magic Spells e-book I found in Callie's Amazon history. The locksmith comes tomorrow. The lawyer's drawing up additional paperwork. And I've got a nice folder of screenshots showing Mark advertising my address as his Celestial Healing Center. Charging $200 per session. Mom keeps calling, telling me I'm tearing the family apart. Maybe I am. But as I sit here, watching Callie and Mark hurriedly cleaning up their ritual space, amazing how fast they can move when they want to. I'm done feeling guilty. Update 2. Yesterday was intense. I'm still processing everything that happened, but I need to write it down while it's fresh. The locksmith arrived at 8 a.m. sharp. I'd stayed up most of the night, scanning documents and backing up files. My neighbor, Layla, had texted offering to be a witness if needed. Turns out she used to work with people like Mark who prey on desperate folks seeking spiritual guidance. I wasn't prepared for what I found in the kitchen that morning. Every surface was covered with food. Elaborate breakfast spreads, fresh fruits, even my favorite childhood cookies that Mom used to make. Mark was wearing an actual apron, humming while arranging muffins. We're manifesting gratitude, he said brightly. Callie's gone to get your favorite coffee from that expensive place you like. The locksmith caught my eye as he worked on the front door. We both knew what this was. Love bombing, clear as day. I grabbed a banana and headed to my office, ignoring the hurt look on Mark's face. My laptop pinged with an email from my lawyer. Attached were screenshots from Mark's private Facebook group, Celestial Healing Circle, VIP members only. There I was, featured in blurry background photos of my own living room, advertised as his spiritual mentor and silent partner. He'd been charging people $500 for weekend retreats. In my house. Callie returned with the coffee and Mom. She burst into tears the moment she saw me. Why are you doing this to your sister? After everything, she stopped, noticing the locksmith. What's going on? I wordlessly handed her my phone, opened to the credit report showing the attempted card applications. Her face went pale. There must be some mistake. Callie would never. The locksmith finished up, handed me the new keys. That's when Mark emerged from the kitchen, all traces of his earlier sweetness gone. You're changing the locks. That's illegal. We have tenant rights. He pulled out his phone, presumably to Google those rights. I'll call the police. Go ahead. I said, surprised by how steady my voice was. I've got copies of all the paperwork right here, including the power of attorney forms you were planning to trick me into signing. Callie's face went white. We were just what? Planning to legally steal my house for your fake healing center? Running unauthorized businesses from my address? Going through my mail? Attempting identity theft? Mom sank into a chair. Identity theft? I pulled out the folder I'd prepared. Credit card applications. Screenshots of Mark's business. Photos of the ritual set up with the power of attorney papers. Bank statements showing the unpaid utilities. And here's the best part, I continued, pulling out my phone. Your conversation last night about scamming me? My security cameras caught all of it. The ones I installed after Layla told me about the late night activities. Mark's phone clattered to the floor. Callie started doing what she always does, making excuses. It's not what you think, bro. We were just trying to build something, help people. The healing is real. Real enough to charge people hundreds of dollars to sit in my living room? You don't understand the spiritual realm, Mark snapped, but his voice wavered. The universe guided us. The universe can guide you to a new address. You have 2 hours to pack essentials. The rest of your stuff, you can get with a police escort present. You can't do this, Mark shrieked. We have rights. Actually, he can. Said a new voice. Jonas stood in the doorway, badge visible on his belt. I hadn't told them my friend works in law enforcement. And as someone who investigates fraud cases, I'm very interested in these unauthorized business operations. What followed was chaos. Mom crying. Mark alternating between threats and pleas. Callie trying to call their old roommates. All bridges apparently burned. Through it all, I stood my ground. They left 2 hours later, taking only what they could fit in their car. Mom went with them, not meeting my eyes. The house felt enormous suddenly, and very quiet. Layla brought over dinner later. You did the right thing, she said, watching me pick at my food. I know it doesn't feel like it, but you did. My phone's been blowing up since then. Flying monkeys everywhere, distant relatives, old friends, even my cousin's wife whom I've met twice. All telling me how I've destroyed the family. But here's the thing. Family doesn't try to steal your house. Family doesn't commit fraud in your name. Family doesn't exploit your kindness for profit. The lawyer's handling the formal stuff now. Joan is looking into Mark's business activities. And me? I'm changing all my passwords, checking my credit reports, and finally feeling like I can breathe in my own home. Mom just texted. I raised you better than this. Maybe she did. Maybe she raised me to stand up for myself, even if she's forgotten that part. Finally, update. It's been 3 weeks since I kicked my sister and her husband out. I wasn't planning to post again, but what happened yesterday changed everything. Remember how Jonas said he was looking into Mark's business activities? Well, it started with an email from one of Mark's former clients. She'd found my contact information through the real estate records for my address. Turns out, Mark wasn't just running unauthorized healing sessions from my house. He was selling fake investment opportunities in a spiritual wellness center he claimed to be opening using my house as collateral without my knowledge. The client, an elderly woman named Dorothy, had lost her entire retirement fund, $175,000. She wasn't the only one. I forwarded everything to Jonah. Within hours, he had a full investigation running. The evidence kept piling up. Fake contracts with my forged signature, doctored property documents, even a website showing my house as their international center for spiritual awakening. Complete with my photo labeled as their silent partner and primary investor. Meanwhile, Callie and Mark were busy. They'd moved in with Mom, of course, started posting about their persecution on social media. Mark even launched a GoFundMe for their legal defense against family betrayal. It raised $23,000 before GoFundMe shut it down. Then Dorothy's story hit the local news. Other victims started coming forward. Turns out, my sister and her husband had been running similar scams across 3 states. Different names, different spiritual buzzwords, same scheme. They'd find a host, mooch off their kindness, use their property as fake collateral, then vanish when things got hot. Mom finally called yesterday not to apologize, to beg for help. They're saying Callie could go to prison. She sobbed. You have to drop the charges. She's your sister. What about Dorothy? I asked. What about her retirement? That's different. She's not family. I hung up, checked my email. Another message from my lawyer. They'd found offshore accounts. Callie and Mark had been busy little scammers. Over $500,000, hidden away while they lived rent-free in my house. The hammer fell this morning. Police showed up at Mom's house with search warrants. Found everything. Fake documents, lists of victims, even a guide they'd bought online about exploiting spiritual seekers. Mom watched them lead her precious girl away in handcuffs, still convinced it was all a big misunderstanding. Mark tried to run. Made it 3 blocks before Layla, my neighbor who'd been watching the house, spotted him trying to hide in someone's garden. Turns out, Layla used to be a track star. Who knew? Here's the beautiful part. All those healing sessions Mark conducted in my house. He recorded them. For training purposes, he claimed. The recordings show him coaching Callie on how to manipulate Mom. Planning how to get me to sign over my house. Laughing about Dorothy and the other victims. The DA's office is having a field day. Wire fraud. Mail fraud. Identity theft. Running unauthorized businesses. Tax evasion. The list keeps growing, but the real karma? Those offshore accounts they thought were so clever. Frozen. Every penny. The courts appointed a receiver to handle restitution to their victims. Dorothy's getting her retirement back. Mom showed up at my door an hour ago. She'd finally watched the videos, seen the evidence, heard Callie and Mark laughing about manipulating her, calling her their useful idiot. I didn't know, she kept saying. I really didn't know. I made her coffee, let her cry. Showed her the files. Years of scams, dozens of victims, carefully documented lies. She aged 10 years reading through it all. What kind of mother am I? She whispered. What did I help them do? I didn't answer. Some questions don't need answers. Jonah called an hour ago. Callie's singing like a canary. Trying to get a deal. Throwing Mark under the bus. Mark's doing the same to her. Their love story ends like their scams. Everyone betraying everyone else. The house is quiet now. I've had the floors professionally cleaned, sage smoke. And all. Layla helped me repaint the living room. The furniture's back where it belongs. No more crystals. No more candles. No more fake spiritual nonsense. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with Dorothy and the other victims. Not because I have to. Because I want to. Because sometimes family isn't who you're born to, but who you choose to stand beside. Mom's in therapy. Real therapy. Not crystal healing. I'm giving her time. Trust, like a clean house, has to be earned back slowly. As for Callie and Mark, they're looking at 8 to 15 years. Minimum security, but still prison. Real men support family. Callie said that day. Well, real people also face consequences. My phone's finally stopped buzzing. The flying monkeys have gone quiet, now that the truth's out. Amazing how fast family loyalty disappears when the facts hit the news. I'm sitting in my reading chair, back in its proper place, watching the sunset through clean windows. No more guilt. No more manipulation. No more family first at the expense of what's right. Final update. The sentencing was yesterday. I wasn't planning to go, but Dorothy asked me to be there. She's become something of a surrogate grandmother over these past months, inviting me for Sunday dinners, teaching me her secret cookie recipe. Callie looked smaller in her orange jumpsuit, all that bravado gone. Mark wouldn't even look at her. They'd turned on each other completely during the trial, each claiming to be the victim of the other's manipulation. The judge wasn't buying it. 14 years each. No early release. The prosecutor read statements from victims, retired teachers, elderly widows, young parents who'd invested their kids' college funds. All looking for spiritual guidance, all betrayed. Mom didn't attend the sentencing. She's in Arizona now, staying with my aunt, attending twice weekly therapy sessions. She calls sometimes, actually listens instead of defending. Baby steps. The house feels different now. Layla and I host monthly community dinners. Dorothy brings her famous pot roast. We've turned the guest room into a library. Real books, not spiritual manifestation guides. Yesterday, I found one of Mark's crystals under the radiator while cleaning. Probably worth 50 cents at a craft store. I gave it to Dorothy's granddaughter for her rock collection. Sometimes the best revenge is living well. And letting a con man's fake crystals bring real joy to a real child.